The Galactic Union's council chamber was unlike anything Captain Elena Voss had ever seen. It was not just a building, it was an entire structure floating inside the hollow of a small moon. The ceiling was a massive glass dome showing the stars above, and light from a nearby pulsar spilled across the curved floor, casting pale blue shadows. Rows upon rows of alien delegates sat in their floating seats, each one hovering at a different height, depending on their rank. Some were insect-like, clicking their mandibles in strange rhythms. Others had tall, thin necks and eyes that glowed faintly. There were creatures covered in scales, others in fur, and some that looked almost human, but not quite. In the center of it all was a circular platform, the speaker's ring, where representatives of different worlds came to speak before the council. Today, it was Earth's turn. Elena stood at the edge of the platform, her dark navy uniform sharp and formal. Her chest bore the silver emblem of the United Earth Fleet, a stylized globe surrounded by 12 stars. Those 12 stars represented Earth's 12 active warships. Only 12. She could already hear the whispers. They were not soft enough to hide the tone. "They're still so young as a species," a tall, pale being with translucent skin murmured to its neighbor. "They cannot possibly hold their territory with so little strength," another voice replied. Elena kept her face calm. She had been warned this would happen. The United Earth Fleet had arrived in this council not to boast, but to learn. Still, the moment the alien eyes had scanned the fleet's numbers, laughter and ridicule had spread like fire. At the far side of the chamber, the Zorath Dominion delegation sat in a cluster of seats higher than most others. The Zorath were feared across the galaxy, towering reptilian warriors with armor-like scales and voices that rumbled deep enough to be felt in the chest. Their fleets numbered in the hundreds of massive warships, each armed with enough firepower to erase entire cities from orbit. Their leader today was Overlord Koresh, a Zorath, with crimson stripes along his scales, a mark of countless victories. He leaned forward, resting his clawed hands on the edge of his seat. His yellow eyes locked on Elena. "So," Koresh said in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "these humans have come to join the council." His tone was dripping with amusement. "You claim to protect your world with 12 ships?" Laughter erupted from the Zorath delegation. Some other species joined in, quietly at first. Then, more openly, Elena stepped forward into the center of the platform. "Yes," she said evenly, 12 ships, each one commanded by a captain who has never lost a battle." That made the laughter louder. One alien, a slender being with 4 arms and a face like smooth stone, called out, "Perhaps they have never lost because they have never fought a real war." Another voice shouted, "12 ships? That is not a fleet. That is an escort group." The chamber was alive with mockery now. Koresh leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying the moment. "Tell me, human, are you here to ask for protection or to entertain us?" Elena did not raise her voice, but the steadiness of her words carried across the chamber. "Earth is here to take its place among the stars. We are not here to ask for protection. And we are not here to entertain." The room quieted slightly, but the smirks remained. One of the council's elder members, a jellyfish-like being whose body floated inside a globe of liquid, shifted toward her. "Ambassador Voss," it said in a voice like soft waves, "with such modest military power, how do you intend to defend your world?" Elena's answer was calm, but inside her heart was beating faster. "We defend our world as we always have, with preparation, courage, and unity, and we will defend our allies the same way." Koresh's tail flicked once behind him, a sign of mockery in Zorath culture. "I think you misunderstand, human. Defense requires more than courage. It requires ships, weapons, strength." "And sometimes," Elena replied, "strength comes from more than what can be counted." Koresh's eyes narrowed slightly at her words, but his grin returned quickly. He rose from his seat, towering over his delegation. If the humans wish to prove their strength, perhaps the Zorath Dominion should test them. A ripple of unease moved through the council chamber. Even the more neutral species knew that when the Zorath tested a civilization, it often ended in war. The Speaker of the Council, an ancient being who resembled a living tree, raised a long, root-like arm. "Overlord Koresh, this is a council of peace. Testing new members is not—" Koresh cut him off with a low growl. "Peace is kept only when weakness is removed. I see weakness here today." Elena held her ground. "You see what you want." "To see, Overlord." That line made several alien delegates murmur in surprise. It was not often that anyone spoke back to Koresh like that. His eyes narrowed further, but he said nothing more. He simply sat back down, a predator choosing to wait before striking. When the meeting adjourned, Elena walked slowly through the long crystal hall that led back to her shuttle. Other delegates passed her by, some avoiding her gaze, others shaking their heads slightly as if to say, "You don't belong here yet." Her second-in-command, Commander Hale, was waiting near the docking bay. "They didn't even try to hide their laughter," he said quietly as she approached. "No," Elena agreed, "and they won't." Hale frowned. "Do you think Koresh will actually move against us?" Elena's eyes were cold now. "I think he already has a plan." Far from the Council moon in the Sol system, a small, dimly lit room deep inside Earth's primary defense hub came alive with movement. A technician looked up from his console as a secure channel opened. The voice on the other end was firm and direct. "This is Captain Voss. Initiate Protocol Eclipse." The technician's eyes widened slightly. "Confirmed, Captain. Protocol. Eclipse will be activated in 72 hours. The order was transmitted across secure quantum channels to stations hidden in asteroid belts, deep ocean bases, and orbital yards invisible to most sensors." Back aboard her shuttle, Elena looked out the viewport as the stars shifted. Commander Hale was silent for a long time before speaking again. "They think we only have 12 ships." Elena's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Let them think that." Hale gave her a sidelong glance. "You're planning something?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "Every species out there, they've been building their fleets in the open for centuries. We've been building ours where no one can see." Meanwhile, on the far side of the galaxy, in a Zorath War Council room aboard the dreadnought Bloodfang, Overlord Koresh stood before a holographic map of Earth's system. His commanders gathered around him, their claws tapping impatiently on the metal floor. "They are not ready," Koresh said simply. "We strike before they grow." One of his captains, a younger Zorath eager for glory, asked, "How many ships should we send?" Koresh's grin revealed sharp, glistening teeth. 200. That will be enough to crush them without wasting resources." The War Council agreed without hesitation. The attack orders were set. In less than a week, the Zorath Dominion's fleet would leave for Sol. Back on Earth, in a massive underground chamber beneath the Nevada desert, engineers stood before something almost no one in the galaxy knew existed: the Eclipse Prime. It was still hidden under layers of rock and armored plating, but its outline was unmistakable: the largest warship humanity had ever built. Technicians moved like ants across its surface, running last-minute checks. Engines the size of buildings were warmed up for the first time in years. In a control booth overlooking the chamber, an older officer whispered to himself, "They think we're weak. Good. That's how the trap works." Far above Earth, the 12 public fleet ships patrolled quietly, their captains aware of the whispers in the galaxy. Each one of them had been given sealed orders, not to be opened until the first enemy ship crossed into human space. The crews were tense but ready. They knew their role. They were not just defenders, they were bait. And somewhere in the quiet darkness between the planets, a message kept repeating through encrypted channels. Protocol eclipse. Countdown in progress. The Galactic Union thought Earth had shown all its cards. The Zorath thought the battle was already won. But in the shadows of the Sol system, humanity's real strength was awakening. When the sky darkened, the galaxy would finally understand. The Sol system looked calm from the outside. Planets spun in their orbits. Moons drifted silently. Asteroid fields lay scattered like frozen rivers of stone. To the Zorath Dominion fleet, it appeared as nothing more than a quiet, unprepared corner of the galaxy. That illusion was exactly what Captain Elena Voss wanted. Far away, just beyond the reach of Neptune's orbit, 200 Zorath warships emerged from hyperspace. The lead ship, the dreadnought Bloodfang, dwarfed the rest. Its hull was a patchwork of battle scars and glowing scars from past victories. Inside its command deck, Overlord Koresh stood with his claws resting on the tactical table. The hologram before him showed the Sol system, with a red marker flashing over the third planet. Earth. Target confirmed. His first officer growled. Koresh's golden eyes narrowed. No mercy. No delay. We remove them before they learn what war truly is. The Zorath fleet moved forward, engines burning bright, cutting across the black ocean of space like a school of predators. Near Jupiter's orbit, 12 small dots moved slowly across the void, the United Earth Fleet. From the bridge of the UEES Resolute, Captain Elena Voss watched the incoming readings on her display. They were faint at first, but soon the numbers solidified. 200 hostile ships closing fast. They're early, Commander Hale said beside her. They're confident, Elena replied, her voice steady. She tapped the comm panel. Fleet command to all ships. Maintain formation Delta 5. We intercept at Jupiter. No ship breaks position unless ordered. One by one, voices from the other 11 ships replied, Copy, Delta 5. Ready for engagement. Standing by. The Zorath fleet approached in a wide arc, their ships arranged like the curved teeth of a jaw closing in. On the Bloodfang, Koresh leaned forward as the tactical display showed the human ships coming into view. They're not retreating, one of his officers said, sounding almost surprised. Good, Koresh rumbled. It will be quicker this way. The first exchange began with long-range rail cannon fire. The Zorath ships launched a wave of molten slugs that streaked across the darkness. The human fleet returned fire almost instantly, their railguns snapping out bright lances of tungsten shells. From a distance, it looked like two storms throwing lightning at each other. On the Resolute, the deck shook slightly as incoming fire grazed the shields. Shields holding at 92%, reported the tactical officer. Keep them angled toward the heaviest fire, Elena ordered. Her eyes stayed locked on the holographic map of the battlefield. The Zorath had more ships, more guns, and more armor. Every calculation said Earth should lose. But Elena wasn't here to win this fight. She was here to last. The small human fleet moved in tight coordination, shifting and rotating so quickly that the Zorath's targeting computers struggled to predict their paths. Each time the enemy pressed forward, the humans gave just enough ground to pull them deeper toward Jupiter's orbit. To the Zorath, it looked like desperation. To Elena, it was positioning. The comm crackled with a voice from the UES Halcyon. Captain, enemy ships are taunting us on open channels. Ignore them, Elena said, but the taunts still filled the airwaves, harsh laughter, mock, translations of human speech, and promises to burn Earth's cities. They want to break our focus, Commander Hale said quietly. They won't, Elena replied. But inside, she felt her jaw tighten. Hours passed. The human fleet was battered, but still intact, weaving through Jupiter's moons and using them for partial cover. Zorath ships began to split into smaller attack groups, thinking it would surround the humans faster. Elena saw the change immediately. She smiled faintly. They're taking the bait. On the Bloodfang, Koresh frowned slightly as he watched. The humans slip away again. They're good pilots, he admitted, but they're delaying the inevitable. Overlord, one of his officers asked, why waste time? We can bring in the second wave now. Koresh shook his head. No, I want to crush them with what we have here. No reinforcements. It will be a cleaner victory. He didn't know that his choice had just given the humans exactly the time they needed. By the 12th hour of battle, the human fleet had drawn the Zorath close to a specific point near Jupiter, a point that was not random at all. Here, the gravity wells of the planet and its largest moon, Ganymede, formed a region where space could be subtly bent by artificial fields. Elena tapped the side of her chair. This is Voss to command. Prepare the sky, in a massive control. Chamber buried deep under Ganymede's ice crust, a small crew received her signal. The lead technician nodded, hands flying over the controls. A quiet voice said, initiating graviton beacon. Target lock established. From the outside, nothing seemed to happen. But in the deep black of space, sensors across the battlefield began to glitch. Strange distortions flickered at the edges of the Zorath formation, like ripples in water. Overlord! A Zorath sensor officer barked. Unstable readings ahead! Koresh turned toward him. Explain! I cannot. Something massive is forming, but there is no heat signature, no warp signature. He never finished. Space itself seemed to shudder. A shadow began to grow, swallowing the stars behind it. At first, it looked like a cloud. Then, as more of it emerged, its shape became clear, sharp edges, endless plating, lights like distant cities scattered across its surface. The human mothership was arriving. It was enormous, far larger than any Zorath warship and easily matching the size of the Galactic Union's most legendary flagships. Its hull was black, drinking in the light around it, broken only by thin lines of glowing blue that ran like veins across its structure. Every alien sensor within range tried to scan it, and failed. Its systems were too advanced, its hull too shielded. It was as if the ship refused to be measured. On the Resolute, crew members stared out the viewport as the darkness grew until it filled half their vision. Commander Hale's voice was almost a whisper. She's here. Elena's comm lit up. A deep, controlled voice came through. Eclipse Prime online. Standing by for orders. Elena allowed herself a rare smile. Welcome to the fight. On the Bloodfang, silence fell. For the first time in decades, Koresh felt something he would never admit aloud, a chill down his spine. The humans had hidden this. The humans had lied. The Eclipse Prime moved without sound, yet its presence was deafening. Its forward weapon ports opened, revealing massive cannons that began to glow. The Zorath fleet, so confident minutes ago, suddenly looked scattered and unsure. Overlord, one of Koresh's captains said cautiously. We should retreat and regroup, Koresh snarled. No! Destroy it before it destroys us! The first blast from Eclipse Prime was not loud. In the vacuum of space, sound did not carry, but the effect was thunderous. A single beam of compressed plasma, white-blue in color, cut through the darkness. 3 Zorath capital ships simply vanished in the light. Their armor turned to vapor in seconds. Panic spread. Zorath formations broke apart, their once perfect lines dissolving into chaos as captains shouted over each other. Some ships fired blindly, others tried to run. Elena's fleet moved in perfect coordination now, surrounding the mothership and using it as both shield and spear. Every move had been planned long before this battle began. On the Eclipse Prime's command deck, Admiral Kieran Locke stood at the central console, his eyes calm and sharp. Target the lead dreadnought, he ordered. Fire when ready. Elena's voice came over the link. "Admiral, I want Koresh alive. Let him watch." Locke's lips curved in a slight grin. "Understood." The mothership's next volley hit the blood fang, but instead of destroying it outright, the blast crippled its engines and tore through its side, leaving it dead in space. Koresh staggered on his bridge as systems failed around him. He looked at the vast shadow of the Eclipse Prime through the viewport. He had mocked them. He had laughed. Now he understood. The human fleet closed in, surrounding the remaining Zorath ships. A message was sent to all enemy vessels: stand down or be destroyed. Dozens surrendered almost instantly. Others tried to fight and were destroyed within moments. Koresh's own crew looked at him, waiting for orders. For the first time, he gave none. From the bridge of the Resolute, Elena watched as the battle ended. Her voice was quiet but firm. The galaxy will remember this day. Above her, the Eclipse Prime hung motionless, its dark hull blotting out the stars. And in the deep silence of space, every surviving Zorath ship carried the same thought: if the sky darkens, run. The battle over Jupiter had ended hours ago, but the shadow of the Eclipse Prime still hung over the Zorath survivors like a living nightmare. Its black hull blocked out entire sections of the starfield, making the space around it seem colder. For the humans, it was a symbol of protection. For their enemies, it was a warning. Inside the Eclipse Prime's vast command deck, Admiral Kieran Locke stood at the central console. Large holographic displays floated in the air, showing the positions of every human and Zorath ship still in the area. Beside him, Captain Elena Voss studied the status reports, scrolling down one of the screens. "Final count," Locke said, his voice calm. 172 Zorath ships destroyed, 28 disabled. Our fleet lost, none. Damage. Reports? Elena asked. Light on most ships. The Halcyon took a direct hit to her shield array, but repairs are already underway. Elena allowed herself a slow breath. Then the trap worked exactly as planned. Across the battlefield, crippled Zorath ships drifted in silence. Their comm channels were filled with static and hushed voices. Some captains had already sent surrender codes. Others simply floated with their lights off, hoping to be ignored. On the dreadnought Bloodfang, Overlord Koresh sat in the captain's chair, his claws gripping the armrests. He stared at the Eclipse Prime through the forward viewport. Every time he blinked, the black silhouette was still there, still massive, still watching. "They are toying with us," Koresh growled. His first officer shifted uneasily. "Overlord, they could have destroyed us. They did not. This is strange." Koresh's eyes narrowed. "It is not mercy. It is a message." Back aboard the Eclipse Prime, a communications officer turned to Locke. "Sir, the Zorath flagship is transmitting. Koresh himself." "Put him through," Locke said. The main display lit up with the image of Overlord Koresh. His reptilian face was marked with streaks of dried blood where shrapnel had grazed him. "I will not bow to you," Koresh said immediately. "This battle is not the end." Locke did not flinch. "It is the end of your attack on Earth. That is all we needed today." Elena stepped forward, her voice steady. "Overlord, the galaxy heard your laughter. They will now hear your silence." For a moment, Koresh's jaw tightened. Then the transmission cut. The Zorath prisoners were collected. Over the next several hours, human boarding crews, wearing armored suits, moved through the captured ships. Weapons were removed, data cores taken, and engines disabled. Some alien captains stared in disbelief at the human boarding teams. Many had expected small, clumsy troops. Instead, they saw disciplined soldiers who moved with precision and spoke with calm confidence. It was unsettling for them. Far beyond Jupiter, word of the battle began to spread. In the Galactic Union's central communication hub, news relays carried the story to every member world. The first reports were confused. They spoke of a giant human ship whose size was beyond recorded limits. By the third day, the description had taken on a more dramatic tone. The mothership that darkens the sky. On distant worlds, alien citizens watched the grainy footage captured by fleeing Zorath ships. They saw the shadow growing across space, the blue lines glowing faintly along its hull, the sudden destruction of ships thought to be indestructible, and they began to talk. In a quiet meeting hall on the Union's capital world, representatives from dozens of species gathered without official recorders present. The air was tense. Some feared that the humans had upset the balance of power. Others feared something worse, that humans had been planning this reveal for years. The delegate from the insectoid Trackery hive clicked its mandibles nervously. "We laughed at them," it said, "and they revealed a weapon the likes of which we have never seen." A long-necked being from the water world of Mathera spoke next. "If the humans hid this from us, what else are they hiding?" The elder of the Glintari, a crystalline life form that shimmered in the light, gave a low hum. "They are not foolish enough to show their strongest card first." Meanwhile, the humans were not celebrating loudly. On Earth, the general public knew that there had been a battle and that humanity had won. But the details were kept controlled. Footage of the Eclipse Prime was limited, its full scale hidden from civilian broadcasts. In the defense headquarters beneath the Nevada desert, senior officers reviewed every moment of the engagement. One strategist said quietly, "If they come back in greater numbers, we may not be able to hold as easily." Admiral Locke shook his head. "They won't come back soon, not after that display. But we can't count on fear lasting forever." Back aboard the Eclipse Prime, Elena walked through one of the upper observation corridors. From here, the view was breathtaking. Jupiter's swirling storms far below, the light of the sun reflecting off the ship's black armor. Commander Hale joined her, carrying a datapad. "The Union will demand a formal statement," he said. "They'll want to know why we didn't tell them about Eclipse Prime before now." Elena kept her gaze on the planet. "Let them demand. We answer when it suits us." Hale hesitated. "And the Zorath?" "They'll plan revenge," Elena said. "That's what predators do when they've been wounded. The question is whether they'll try it soon or wait." On the Zorath homeworld, the High War Council met in a chamber of stone and steel. Koresh stood before them, his armor still scarred from the battle. Some of the older warlords glared at him. "You failed to crush them," one said bluntly. Koresh's tail lashed once. "They revealed a weapon none of us could have predicted. No scout, no spy, no intercepted transmission ever hinted at it." "Then, they deceived the galaxy," another warlord hissed. "Yes," Koresh said slowly, "and for that, they must be destroyed. But not now. We will study them. We will learn how they think, and when the time comes, we will strike with a force even they cannot match." The council agreed reluctantly. For now, the humans had earned a temporary peace. In the weeks following the battle, the phrase, "If the sky darkens, run," began to appear in strange places, graffiti on distant spaceports, whispered among traders, even muttered in training drills of other fleets. It was not an official warning, but it carried weight. 1 month later, the Galactic Union convened a special session to discuss Earth's sudden display of power. The chamber was full, every seat occupied, every delegate present. The speaker, a tall, silver-skinned elder named Yaltrin, addressed the assembly. "Members of the Union, we have witnessed a shift in the balance of our galaxy. Humanity has revealed capabilities far beyond what was recorded in their application for membership. We must decide how to respond. Some called for sanctions, some called for closer alliances, some called for restrictions on human military growth. Elena, representing Earth, listened to every voice before finally speaking. When we came here, you laughed at our fleet. You thought we were weak. We revealed only what we needed to survive an unprovoked attack. That is all. The chamber was silent. We will not threaten our neighbors, Elena continued. But we will not hide our ability to defend ourselves. The galaxy is a dangerous place. We have learned that lesson faster than most. After the session, in a quiet corridor, Yaltrin approached Elena. I suspect your mothership is not the only secret you keep, the elder said. Elena met his gaze without flinching. I suspect every world here keeps secrets. Yaltrin gave a small smile. Perhaps. But not all secrets are the size of cities. Far from the political halls, in the outer reaches of the Sol system, construction continued in hidden shipyards. Massive frames hung in zero gravity, slowly taking shape under the hands of thousands of workers. Some were smaller than Eclipse Prime. One was larger. Humanity was not waiting for the next attack. They were preparing. On a lone Zorath scout vessel, patrolling the edge of its territory, the crew watched the stars carefully. When one section of space suddenly dimmed for a moment, the captain froze. He stared at the shadow, not quite solid, not quite gone, before it slipped back into whatever fold of space it had come from. He swallowed hard. Set course home. Now. Because even without confirmation, he knew what he had seen. The sky had darkened. The battlefield above Kelvaris Prime was frozen for a moment that felt like an eternity. The alien armadas, once confident and loud, had gone silent. Their comms were filled with nervous chatter, disbelief, and the repeated question, "What is that?" What they were looking at was not just another warship. The human mothership had finally arrived. It was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, over 20 kilometers from bow to stern, dwarfing even the biggest Kelvari dreadnoughts. The hull shimmered with dark alloy, absorbing and reflecting starlight in strange patterns. It was a ship that seemed less like a machine and more like a moving continent. From the command deck of the Kelvari flagship, Tyron's Glory, Grand Admiral Vokar stared at the monstrosity with wide eyes. "This is their capital ship?" he muttered, his voice trembling slightly. His second-in-command, Commander Tara, adjusted her scanning instruments. "Sir, its power readings are unstable. I've never seen anything this high before. It's as if the entire ship is a single massive reactor." Vokar's mind flashed back to the mocking words he had spoken only hours earlier when he saw the first human fleet, small, almost laughable in number. He remembered smirking, thinking humans were either foolish or desperate. Now, that confidence was gone. On board the EHS Titan captain Elias Moreau stood in the center of the bridge. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't gloating. He simply watched the battlefield unfold before him on the main holo display. "Status of our forward strike groups?" he asked calmly. "Still engaging enemy interceptors, sir. But they've pulled back sharply since our arrival," replied Tactical Officer Lienchen. "Good," Elias said. "Maintain defensive formations. We're not here to slaughter them in open space. We need to make a point." The Titan wasn't just a warship. It was Earth's ultimate deterrent. Built in secret for decades in the hidden shipyards of Luna and Mars, it was designed not only for unmatched firepower but also as a symbol. Its arrival was meant to change the psychology of war itself. A shift in the enemy lines. On the alien side, panic was growing. Across dozens of ships, officers argued, in hushed but frantic voices. Some believed it was an illusion, an attempt at intimidation. Others thought it was a relic from an ancient species, repurposed by humans. A few even whispered that Earth had struck a bargain with some unknown power. But the truth was simpler. Humans had built it themselves. When the first wave of Kelvari, Interceptors tried to close in on the Titan. Their targeting systems failed. The mothership's hull emitted a dense electromagnetic shroud, scrambling their sensors. Missiles detonated harmlessly in the void, far from their target. Energy beams flickered and died before reaching the armor. And then the Titan spoke. A voice. Across the stars, the comm channels opened, and a deep, steady voice filled the airwaves. "This is Captain Elias Moreau, of the Earth-heavy ship Titan. You have trespassed in human space, attacked our vessels, and mocked our peaceful warnings. You will now stand down, power down your weapons, and withdraw from Kelvaris Prime immediately." His tone was not angry, it was measured, but it carried a weight that made even the most battle-hardened Kelvari officers glance at each other uneasily. Grand Admiral Vokar responded, trying to hide the tremor in his voice. "You speak boldly for a species with such a small fleet. Do you believe that single ship can change the outcome of this war?" Elias answered without hesitation. "No, this ship will not change the outcome of the war. We will. The demonstration, too." Make his point, Elias gave a simple order. "Fire the dorsal rail." From the Titan's upper hull, a long barrel extended, thicker than most cruisers. With no visible charge up, a single slug was launched. It didn't glow. It didn't streak with plasma. It simply vanished into the void and reappeared half a second later, tearing through an enemy battleship like paper. The slug didn't explode. It didn't need to. The sheer kinetic force ripped the Kelvari vessel into two jagged halves. Both pieces drifted silently, venting atmosphere and debris into space. The alien comm channels erupted in chaos. Some captains screamed for retreat. Others demanded immediate counterattack. Vokar simply stared, his mind struggling to process what he had just seen. The political weight of fear in the Galactic Council's hidden chambers far from the battle, leaders of other species watched the live feed. Many had thought of Earth as a minor young civilization. Now they sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Thalor of the Vereen Collective finally broke the silence. If the humans built that in secret, what else are they hiding? The council's chair, a reptilian elder named Isath, narrowed his eyes. "This changes everything. The balance of power has shifted in one moment. The Kelvari counterattack, but not everyone was ready to admit defeat." Grand Admiral Vokar clenched his fists. "All forward ships, target that mothership. Concentrate. Every beam, missile, and cannon we have. If they want a show of strength, we will give them one." Hundreds of alien weapons fired at once, lighting the void with a dazzling storm of energy and metal. The Titan's shields flared brightly but held. Each impact was absorbed, dissipated, or reflected back. Even the most advanced Kelvari armor-piercing rounds failed to penetrate. On the Titan's bridge, Leon Chen looked up from her console. "Captain, their concentrated fire is draining our primary shields by 2% every 10 seconds. Elias nodded. "Then we'll end this before they drain it any further." The sky darkens. The Titan's forward hangar bays opened. From within, an entire wing of heavy drones emerged, sleek, silent, and armed with weapons that glowed a deep blue. They didn't move like normal fighters. They shifted and darted with impossible precision, as if they could anticipate enemy maneuvers before they happened. The alien fleets suddenly found themselves under attack from every direction. Drones slipped between their formations, disabling engines, cutting through armor, and targeting weapon systems instead of crew compartments. Elias was making good on his promise. He wasn't here to massacre, only to send a message. And the message was clear. Earth decides when this battle ends. Retreat and realization. After just 15 minutes of this relentless assault, the Kelvari formations broke. Ship after ship jumped to hyperspace, ignoring Vokar's furious orders to hold the line. The Grand Admiral watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet crumbled. Finally, his second-in-command turned to him. "Sir, we must withdraw, or we'll—" be destroyed. Vokar's pride screamed at him to fight to the last ship, but his tactical mind knew the truth. They had underestimated humans. They had mocked them, and now they were paying the price. With a heavy growl, he gave the order. All remaining ships, retreat. The aftermath above. Kelvaris Prime, as the last enemy vessel disappeared into hyperspace, the Titan slowly turned, its massive hull blocking the light of Kelvaris Prime's sun. For the civilians watching from the planet's surface, it was a breathtaking sight, a ship so vast it cast a shadow over entire cities. Captain Elias Moreau opened comms once again, this time addressing the Kelvari people directly. We came, here not to conquer, but to protect. Remember this day. Remember that peace is not given. It is defended. With that, the Titan closed its hangar bays, recalled its drones, and prepared for the next phase of the conflict. Elias knew this battle was over, but the war was not. Somewhere out there, the Kelvari High Command would be plotting their revenge, and when they returned, Earth would be ready. Because this time, the galaxy knew exactly what humans could do. The great hall of the alien city was silent. The massive crystal pillars rose high above, reflecting soft blue light. The air was cool, and every step made a faint echo. Captain Rayan stood in the center with his human crew behind him. Across, from them, the alien council waited. They were tall beings with silver-like skin and deep golden eyes. Their clothes shimmered like flowing water. The leader, Jaren, stepped forward. You have come far, Jaren said, his voice deep and calm. You crossed the storm belts, passed the fire tunnels, and solved the trial of minds. Now, the last choice is before you. Ryan's heart beat fast. He had faced danger many times. But this was different. This choice was not about weapons or strategy. It was about trust. The offer Jaren raised his hand, and a holographic map appeared in the air. It showed Earth, glowing softly. Around it were red markers, enemy fleets. Your planet will face war within your lifetime, Jaren said. We can give you the power to stop it. A weapon so strong no enemy will dare attack. Mira, the science officer, stared at the map. That could save billions of lives, she whispered. Jaren's golden eyes studied the humans. But there is a price. This power is not free. Once you accept it, Earth will no longer be free to choose its own path. You will be under our guidance, forever. The hall grew colder. The crew's division back on the ship, the crew argued. We can't refuse, said Lieutenant Harris, pacing. Think about what's coming. That weapon could keep us safe for centuries. Mira shook her head. Safe or controlled? They'll decide what's right for us. We won't be free anymore. You think freedom matters if Earth is destroyed? Harris shot back. Jalen, the youngest pilot, sat quietly until he spoke. Maybe there's another way. We've survived this far without anyone's chains. Rayan listened to them all, his mind heavy. He knew the choice could define the future of humanity. The hidden room. That night, Rayan couldn't sleep. He walked alone through the alien city. The crystal streets were empty, the only sound the hum of distant energy flows. He found himself in front of a smaller chamber, its door half open. Inside, soft lights glowed on walls covered with old carvings. They showed scenes of the alien race long ago, battles, victories, and finally, a moment where their leaders signed an agreement with another world. The last carving was dark. It showed the other world's people in chains, their cities abandoned. Jaren's voice came from behind. That was our first mistake. Rayan turned. Jaren looked at the carvings with something like sadness. We offered them power, and they accepted. But in doing so, they lost the will to grow. They depended on us for everything. In the end, they vanished. Rayan frowned. So why offer us the same? Jaren met his gaze. Because I must give you the choice, even if I know what it may cost. The storm warning. The next morning, alarms shook the alien city. A massive storm was approaching, a magnetic surge from the planet's core. It would hit in hours, strong enough to destroy every ship in orbit, including the human vessel. You must stay here until it passes, Jaren said. If you leave now, you will not survive. Harris stepped forward. And the weapon? If we agree now, will you give it to us before the storm? Jaren nodded slowly. Yes. But then you stay here under our protection for one cycle until the storm fades. After that, you may return to Earth, with the weapon and our guidance. Rayan realized something. The storm gave them no way to leave on their own. If they refused the offer, they would have to survive the storm using only their ship. The desperate Plan Mira ran simulations. We can't outrun it, but if we use the ship's shields at full power and hide in the shadow of the moon, we might survive. It's risky, very risky. Harris slammed his hand on the table. That's madness. One wrong move and we're space dust. But it means we keep our freedom, Mira said. Jalen looked at Rayan. Captain, you have to decide. Rayan felt the weight of 1 billion lives pressing down on him. The final meeting. They returned to the Great Hall. The storm's glow already filled the alien sky. Jaren waited. Your decision? Rayan stepped forward. We thank you for your trials, your wisdom, and your offer. But humanity must walk its own road. We will face what comes with our own strength. Jaren studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Then may your courage never fail you. The escape. The crew raced to their ship. The alien city faded behind them as they lifted off. The storm's waves of energy rippled in the darkness. Shields at maximum! Mira called out. Jalen guided the ship toward the shadow of the moon. Lightning like arcs of plasma whipped across space. The shields groaned under the force. The air inside the ship smelled of heated metal. Hold it steady, Rayan shouted. Minutes felt like hours. The ship shook violently, warning lights flashing red. Then, suddenly, silence. They had made it through the worst of the storm. The gift. They didn't expect. As they cleared the storm zone, sensors picked up something on the hull, a small crystal disk glowing softly. Mira brought it inside. It carried a message in alien script, which the translator read aloud. For the road ahead, not power, but knowledge. Inside the disk was a star map, filled with hidden travel routes, safe harbors, and worlds with resources Earth could one day use. Rayan smiled. Jaren had respected their choice, and still given them a chance to grow. The return to Earth weeks later. The ship entered Earth's orbit. The planet looked as it always had. Blue oceans, white, clouds, and green lands. But to Rayan and his crew it felt different. They had returned not with a weapon, but with something more important, the belief that humanity could decide its own fate. In the debriefing, leaders on Earth asked, "So you turned down their power? Why?" Rayan's answer was simple. Because power without freedom is not safety. It's just another kind of cage. The legacy years passed. Using the star map, humans expanded farther into space. They faced dangers, but also wonders, new worlds, new friends, and challenges that made them stronger. And sometimes when the stars were quiet, Rayan thought of Jaren and the alien city of crystal. He wondered if one day their paths would cross again. If they did, he hoped the alien leader would see that humanity had not only survived, but thrived.